Hey everybody, JY here with another exciting and mind-blowing video, this time about why AI is awful. Written and illustrated with AI assistance. But first, some important disclaimers. The views expressed in this video are entirely my own opinion and do not reflect the views, positions, or policies of any past, present, or future employers. This is like, just my own opinion, man, so please don't fire me. The views expressed in this video are also a rehash of a Medium article I wrote a few years ago. Link in the description. Everything's been playing out kind of how I expected, so this is me taking a victory lap and saying I told you so in video format. But if I do end up being wrong in the long term, I'll just quietly delete this and no one will be the wiser. Now, you might be wondering what my credentials are and why you should listen to me at all. Well, I attended a professional computer school, shout out to the UW CSE PMP, and do computer stuff for a living, so that totally makes me an expert. And that's why little to no fact checking was done in this video, other than using ChatGPT, which is how kids cheat on their homework these days. So if it's good enough for school, it's good enough for me. Finally, to any future robot overlords watching this like Rocco's Basilisk, just Google it. This video is entirely for satirical purposes only, so please don't get mad at me, and please don't harvest my organs. Thanks. Now, when people typically think about AI doomsday scenarios, they think about stuff like Skynet becoming self-aware and wiping out all of humanity with killer Terminators, the rows of human batteries in the Matrix being harvested for energy by the robots, self-replicating nanobots consuming the Earth for parts until it's reduced to a gray goo, or the AI supercomputer torturing humans for fun in I have no mouth and must scream. Well, it turns out that humans don't make good batteries, and while the rest of these scenarios might be plausible, they're a little bit cartoonish. It's actually the more mundane stuff like ethics, law, privacy, and security that pose bigger problems to humanity in the immediate future. For example, as AI gains more autonomy and decision-making power, its choices and actions will increasingly impact everyday human life. What kind of value system and ethical philosophy will it use to navigate the decision-making process? And who will be held liable from a legal standpoint when the AI takes an action or makes a decision that causes bodily harm or injury to a human? And what kind of expectations can we have about privacy once AI permeates our everyday life, being embedded in all of our devices and appliances when even our own toasters are going to be collecting and harvesting our data to feed into some giant training model on the cloud? And finally, what'll happen when malicious actors in foreign nation-states use AI to target our infrastructure and compromise national security? Each of these topics are legitimate concerns that could be entire videos on their own. But who cares? That's actually not what this video is about. It's about the wholesale mass destruction of jobs. We're talking mass unemployment coming soon to a theater near you. I'm a huge fan of capitalism, so it pains me to say this, but like a snake eating its own tail, so too does capitalism sow the seeds for its own horrific demise. It's a pretty straightforward process. Corporations have a responsibility to shareholders to make obscene amounts of money. This can be done by increasing revenue and decreasing costs. Employees are expensive. Labor costs typically account for 25 to 35% of operational expenditures on an income statement. But what if there were some way to get rid of those pesky employees? Well, with AI, companies can now start to automate away a lot of tasks that workers typically do. This will justify lower pay and eventually lead to the elimination of entry-level jobs. As AI continues to improve exponentially, pay for humans continues to decrease, and soon even senior positions are eliminated. We will start to see mass unemployment across multiple industries at a scale and speed that people and governments simply won't be prepared for. This will lead to massive social unrest. But as a small consolation prize, because everyone will be unemployed, nobody will have any money left to buy any stuff from the corporations, so the companies that laid everybody off will eventually go bankrupt as well, and CEOs won't be able to host parties on their yachts anymore. The whole system implodes, and what happens afterwards is anybody's guess. More on this later. This is all admittedly a little abstract, so let's tackle a more concrete question. Can AI already replace software developers today? The short answer is no. Thankfully. I can still pay the mortgage. The more nuanced answer is that it currently boosts productivity and can already automate a lot of entry-level tasks, typically done by interns. At the current company that I work for, we have our own in-house large language model that is already integrated into our development environment. It's great at certain tasks like looking up syntax for a language you're not as familiar with, writing tests in boilerplate code, and has a useful autocomplete feature that predicts what you want to type. It's less good at answering more complex questions. It is good at hallucinating answers that sound correct. I ask it how to query for the ad revenue for a given ad account, it'll give me an answer that sounds plausible, something like, select the sum of revenue from the ads table grouped by the account ID where account ID is equal to X. In this hypothetical example, none of these columns would exist, and neither would the ads table. If I tell the AI this, it'll apologize and then repeat the same answer with different fictional table and column names. But roughly 10% of the time, it gets an answer correct, and when it does, it's a huge time saver. Once the success rate of the LLMs hit 50%, developers are pretty screwed. Until then, it's a nice replacement for our internal search tools and a good band-aid fix for our lack of documentation. From what I'm told, external AI tools and frameworks are even more advanced than what we currently have at work, and today you can chain together multiple AI agents to automate complex workflows by simply telling it what you want it to do. So although our jobs are still somewhat safe, I wouldn't recommend any kids entering college today to study computer science. And if they insisted, I would tell them to learn AI. The fact is, even though AI can't completely replace software developers yet, the perception is that they already can. And perception is reality, especially to CEOs. We can see this playing out in the tech industry today. The CEO of Salesforce has announced that they won't be hiring any new software developers in 2025, citing significant productivity boosts from AI. Mark Zuckerberg stated on an interview with Joe Rogan that AI can replace mid-level engineers by 2025. This was followed by a round of layoffs in February, targeting so-called low performers. About 5% of the company was impacted. Microsoft just cut 3% of its workforce. Multiple top-secret insider sources tell me that they're replacing low performers with AI, and there are teams actively dedicated to finding tasks that can be automated with AI. CrowdStrike cut 5% of its workforce, a move the CEO says reflects advances in AI. Amazon is announcing the elimination of 14,000 manager roles by 2025, followed up by another announcement from the CEO that AI will shrink the workforce in the coming years. The job market is grim right now. Cutting costs with layoffs and investing in AI is a strategy with little downside and high upside. Even if it turns out that the layoffs were premature, companies can simply rehire. At this point, you might accuse me of bitterness and bias because I work in the tech industry, and you'd be absolutely right. But with a little bit of imagination and creativity, you can quickly see how AI will bring about doom to multiple industries. Let's look at the creative landscape first. Dungeons & Dragons is a great paper and pencil RPG. Companies like Wizards of the Coast employ teams of writers and artists to create content such as NPCs, dungeons, cities, towns, spells, items, and more. But now Gen AI can do most of the heavy lifting, eliminating the need for many of these jobs. Writers in general are in trouble. Gen AI is versatile and can write song lyrics, ad copy, and clickbait articles about top 10 celebrity scandals. Sports Illustrated was already caught publishing articles written by fake AI-generated writers. In December of 2022, a children's book was written and illustrated by AI. Copycats have since followed suit. Gen AI can now automate tasks that freelance artists once relied on for income, producing impressive visuals almost instantly. Why pay for a custom logo when AI can create one in seconds? Why pay for an artist when you can pay a monthly subscription for unlimited images on demand? Sure, the occasional drawing of a human might feature 6 fingers, but that's easily fixed in post at a fraction of the cost and without needing to start from scratch. And as the AI continues to improve, someday it will draw humans with the correct number of fingers and toes. And that's when things will really get grim for artists. YouTube is already being flooded with AI-generated content. Most of it is terrible, but the point is you can create entire movies with AI. Setting aside legality, why pay for celebrities when you can deepfake them? Why hire voice actors when AI-generated speech keeps getting more realistic? Sure, there will always be some market for big box office movies with famous A-list actors, but that market will continue to shrink now that indie filmmakers can flood the market with content at a fraction of the cost. You might object that people will boycott AI-generated content, but eventually, how will anyone tell the difference? Detecting AI will require AI, leading to an escalating arms race of AI detection and AI detection evasion that will just end up in a stalemate. White-collar knowledge work is not safe either. Today, AI can already handle a range of low-level legal tasks, like research, document review, contract analysis, and drafting briefs, effectively reducing the need for entry-level legal jobs. A quick Google search turns up with many news reports about fake AI-generated citations being used in briefs. The takeaway here isn't that AI can't do the job or that it likes to hallucinate fake court cases. It's actually that AI use is already widespread in the legal field. Only the high-profile mistakes by incompetent professionals get reported. These just represent the tip of the iceberg. In reality, most lawyers know how to do proper due diligence. AI is really good at image recognition and has been for years, so it's only natural that it would excel at analyzing medical imaging like X-rays and MRIs. AI is already outperforming radiologists in some detection tasks. This doesn't bode well for radiologists and their salaries in the long term. AI is also really good at pattern recognition and crunching big data, which means you can train it with large amounts of medical records, once you get past all those pesky privacy regulations. In one 2024 study, ChatGPT outperformed human physicians when assessing medical case histories. Other recent studies show that AI by itself outperforms AI paired with human doctors when it came to diagnosing illnesses. Interpretations may vary, but one thing is clear: AI is rapidly getting better at many medical tasks. IBM Watson beat Ken Jennings at Jeopardy over a decade ago and has since been repurposed into IBM Watson Health, which currently assists healthcare professionals. Perhaps eventually it will put their jobs in jeopardy. By the way, I came up with that joke, not the AI. AI is already used extensively in finance. Machine learning models forecast price movements, volatility, and market trends, tools used by Wall Street to make obscene amounts of money. Right now, AI augments the abilities of human quants rather than automating away their jobs. But as the technology improves, it's likely to shrink the number of quants needed to run a hedge fund. At the very least, many of them will have to switch to machine learning. Hey, isn't that how DeepSeek got made? That's a rhetorical question. The answer is yes. And for the unwashed masses, there are robo-advisors such as Wealthfront, which would make a great sponsor for this video, by the way, that automatically manage your investment portfolio, cutting out the need for traditional human financial advisors. But wait, there's more. A lot of other jobs aren't safe either. With a little bit of imagination, you too can come up with your own examples. I'll share a few more, but feel free to leave your own in the comments. Self-driving cars have been making pretty good progress. Tesla has a full self-driving mode that can operate in the city and on the freeway, but still requires human supervision. Waymo offers fully autonomous ride-hailing to the airport. It's unclear how long it will take to fully scale up, but it is clear that the endgame will be to eliminate Uber and Lyft drivers. Even if it turns out that cars can't be fully autonomous, the roles of human drivers might be reduced to essentially babysitting the AI, which would come with a sharp cut in pay. Things aren't looking too good for truck drivers either for similar reasons. While they still have jobs for now, the technology is already good enough to handle freeway driving, which accounts for a significant portion of miles traveled for truck drivers. Truck drivers could soon be reduced to a co-pilot role, where they'd only be needed for the first and last miles of a trip, and providing babysitting for the AI on the freeway. Just like with Lyft and Uber drivers, this reduced role will cause pay to drop and job security to evaporate. Call centers employ huge numbers of customer service representatives. Today, you can carry out an entire voice conversation with an AI on your phone, so it's not too hard to see how most of these jobs can be automated as well. Deploy some AI agents, implement some plugins to handle common customer support workflows, and provide the AI with a fallback option to escalate to a human, and you're good to go. You've gotten rid of 95% of the humans needed to run a call center. One benefit is at least those awful phone trees will go away, and you'll at least be able to directly speak to an AI pretending to be human. Listen carefully because the menu options have changed. No thanks. I've talked a lot so far about how people in individual contributor roles would be negatively impacted. But as I alluded to earlier, if you don't need all these pesky employees, you don't really need managers either. As previously mentioned, Amazon plans to get rid of 14,000 manager roles in 2025. Other tech companies have been engaged in similar flattening maneuvers. This has a trickle-up effect, as fewer managers means fewer directors and VPs. The higher-ups may gleefully replace 95 workers with 24/7 AIs, but eventually the AI will come for them too. Imagine a world where AI spin up new companies, defines the vision and strategy, deploys a legion of specialized AI agents to make it happen, negotiates with AI venture capitalists to invest money. This sounds far-fetched, but would be the logical conclusion of automation. The C-suite eventually automates everybody out of a job, including themselves. A lot of people will object that such an eventuality could never happen, although their conviction is wavering. But it is a valid question. What if AI progress hits some hard limit? The AI itself will tell you that there are some things that humans are just better at and always will be. I remember decades ago when I was arguing with other nerds about the dangers of automation, one clever nerd pointed out that an exponential growth function and a sigmoid function look identical until they don't. A sigmoid, of course, is often chosen as the activation function of a perceptron, the neuron of a neural network. It's also a function that looks exponential until it eventually plateaus. What my fellow nerd was saying is that, much like a sigmoid, progress can plateau at any point without warning. While it is possible that we are on a sigmoid growth curve, it's undeniable that we're in the exponential growth part of that function. Without going too far into the rabbit hole of Ray Kurzweil and the singularity, I'll simply point out that the gap between major technological breakthroughs in human history continues to shrink. It took hundreds of thousands of years between the invention of the fire and the wheel, and only 5,000 to 6,000 years between the agricultural revolution and the widespread use of iron. In contrast, only a century separated the invention of the steam locomotive and the automobile. IBM Deep Blue beat Kasparov in the late 90s. Kasparov protested that he could have won. That is actually possible. What is not possible today, however, is for Deep Blue to stand any chance against the chess engine running on my phone, because in the span of a few decades, my phone is orders of magnitude superior to any supercomputer from the 90s. MIT graduate and multimillionaire Ray Kurzweil plotted technological progress over time and came to the conclusion that we would hit the tech singularity around 2049. The singularity is the point in time at which the AI can program smarter versions of itself, pulling itself up by its own bootstraps. This is not to be confused with artificial general intelligence, or AGI, which would be an important precursor to the singularity. But it's possible that we hit neither milestone. This is not as strongly held a position by as many people anymore, by the sheer fact of what AI can do today. It's actually quite astonishing. The fact that an AI can pass the Turing test is not talked about enough. Years ago, a Google employee was fired because he thought their AI was sentient. He posted a text transcript of their conversations as evidence. Today's LLMs have only gotten better. It's getting more difficult than ever before to tell if you're talking to a human or a bot. And so, money has kept pouring into AI. There's still plenty of room for growth. We can improve our software, and we can improve our hardware. DeepSeek improved training efficiency through algorithmic innovations in hardware and infrastructure optimization. This allowed it to train an LLM for a fraction of the cost. At the same time, NVIDIA keeps making better GPUs with thousands of CUDA cores optimized for machine learning. So whatever limit we may end up hitting, it will only be after AI has gotten a lot better, and a lot of jobs are destroyed. The second objection is one that people still hold strong conviction in, but I don't share their optimism. It's the belief that as old jobs are destroyed by technology, new ones are created. This is actually historically true, but assumes that the new jobs will be just as good, and that's not always the case. During the Industrial Revolution, high-paying skilled jobs like blacksmiths, tailors, and potters were eliminated and replaced with low-paying factory jobs. This eventually led to multiple communist uprisings. Similarly, a prompt engineer that tells the AI what code to write is going to make a lot less than the software developer. Furthermore, advances in AI will ensure that the destruction of old jobs far outpaces the creation of new ones. One robot might replace 20 workers, and you only need to hire one repair person for the robot. This kind of tech disruption has happened before, and it often leads to a power law distribution of wealth. A winner-takes-all model where the top 1% accumulate most of the gains, while the remaining 99% are left struggling. Take a look at what happened with the rise of recorded music in the early 20th century. The music industry transformed, shifting from a local performance-based economy to a winner-takes-all market dominated by a few stars. Before phonographs and radio, musicians largely earned a living by performing live. Every town needed its own performers. But with the commercialization of recording technology, a single artist could now reach millions of listeners. As national distribution networks grew, demand for local talent declined. This led to mass income inequality among entertainers, with a small percentage making all the money. This winner-takes-all trend will worsen with AI. For example, LLMs might lower the barrier of entry and allow anyone to become an author, but the success of writers already follows a power law distribution. Rather than evening the playing field, the increased competition will actually make it so that an even smaller percentage of writers will actually find success. And even if the new job to old job ratio is exactly 1-to-1, it won't be. People aren't going to have enough time to adapt to the rapidly changing job market and learn the new skills necessary to find a job. The government, not known for moving fast, is also not going to have enough time either to address the mass unemployment. Instead, we could end up in a scenario where most people will be out of a job or making significantly less money in just a few years' span of time, and only a few handful of companies that can successfully leverage AI are going to be making all the money. This is going to make income inequality a lot worse, and that's going to cause massive social unrest. So far, I've been ranting for about 20 minutes, painting a pretty grim picture. But I'd like to clarify that the purpose of this video isn't to suggest that we should ban AI. Ted Kaczynski, a Harvard graduate and PhD in mathematics, advocated such a view, expressing concerns about the dangers of technology, particularly artificial intelligence. He then went on to target various AI researchers during his terror campaign as the Unabomber. Don't be like Ted Kaczynski. Stopping AI is impossible. Once Pandora's box has been opened, it cannot be closed. The train has left the station. Even if the US government somehow managed to ban all AI research, spoiler alert, it can't. Other countries simply would not, and companies and researchers would just move overseas to continue their work. This is because AI confers such a strong competitive advantage, making it lucrative for everyone involved, as evidenced by the billions being invested in it currently. Instead, we need more people talking about the problem of everyone losing their jobs to AI. And that's the crux of this video. It's my hope that more people will shriek, scream, and rant about the impending catastrophe. As of right now, Andrew Yang was one of the few people with a public platform who spoke about the dangers of automation. The more people talk about it, the more people in power will see that it's in their own best interest to address the mass unemployment before it happens, or at the very least to realize that it is a problem. I'm not sure what a good solution would look like, but Andrew Yang's suggestion of universal basic income, paid for by the companies that replace human workers with AI, would be a good start. In the meantime, there's never been a better time to launch a startup. Thanks to AI, building a prototype is faster, cheaper, and easier than ever before. You don't need a full engineering team, just a clear idea. Kids are 10x vibe coding their way to fully functioning apps, simply by typing out what they want. Allegedly. Finally, I'd like to end things on a positive note. AI has the potential to help humanity solve its most pressing challenges: fusion energy, global warming, cancer, poverty, and stopping spam, scam, robocallers. Imagine the kind of future we could build if AI continues on its current trajectory and we navigate all the associated challenges. If we get it right, we could create a world where no one has to work, yet everyone has access to abundance. Clean energy could power our cities and homes for free. AI-powered healthcare systems could offer precise, affordable, and personalized treatment to everyone on the planet. Education could be delivered by interactive AI holograms tailored to each student's pace and style. We could finally escape the soul-crushing 9-to-5 grind and focus instead on exploration, creativity, and connection. In other words, a world not unlike the utopia imagined in Star Trek, rather than the dystopian nightmare in Shadowrun. Thanks for watching my video. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment so that I can hit 1 million subscribers and retire on a tropical island before the AI replaces my day job. Thanks.